This is Dr. Rosie Kuhn, and this podcast series is called Spiritual Immersion, Taking the Plunge. And the intention, as you've heard almost 90 times so far, the intention of these podcasts is to support and empower you to be curious about who you are, both as a human being and as a spiritual being. Today, I want to talk about and focus on where and how we justify not doing the work, digging in our heels. In the previous podcast, I spoke about how we want to make this work easier. This is being a human being, we've somehow been came to believe that this should be easy. There shouldn't be problems. We should be able to endure and overcome obstacles. And the truth is we can, but we have to do it differently than the way that we've been taught. And there's a part that says it shouldn't hurt. We shouldn't be in pain. We should be able to, if we feel emotions, just stiff upper lip and get on with it. Move on and don't dwell on the emotional elements on it, or don't dwell on the thoughts of it, or don't dwell on it. Just move on. And what we don't dwell on, if we don't. There's so often we stuff things. We stuff our emotions. We stuff our feelings. We stuff our thinking. We stuff it. And when we stuff it, we don't deal with it. One of the things I heard a long time ago when I was studying as a family therapist, it says in a dysfunctional family, we're not allowed to think, feel, need, or want. So imagine. I know that's true for me, and I know that's true for so many people, and the clients that I've worked with, whether they're at the executive level in the corporations or just everyday people. They struggle in their lives because they're not allowed to think, feel, need, or want. So here we are in this program, this human being program, and things aren't going the way we expected them to go, or we get disease, we get illnesses, we get accidents, we get things that happen, and we feel like we are at the mercy of those situations. In the previous podcast, I talked about me believing I'm at the mercy of basically everything. And once I start to empower myself to change the things I can change, something happens, and good things happen. And it also requires moving into choices that I don't want to make, like the courage to change the things I can. So, for instance, I was dealing with a lot of pain, back pain or joint pain or skin issues, but primarily in the focus of pain. You've heard me talk about that before. So I decided that what I needed to do, because I knew all the science points to that sugar and refined wheats and flours, refined sugars, contribute to inflammation. Inflammation causes pain. So it's like, okay, I'm going to experiment. I'm going to give up sugar. And guess what? The pain went away. And I gave up wheat, glutens, and a lot more grains. And guess what? A lot of the restless leg went away, and other things that were impacting on me. I didn't want to give it up. I didn't want to give up coffee. I didn't want to give up alcohol. I don't want to. Trust me, I don't want to. I love having a glass of wine and a cup of coffee in the morning. But what I like better is not having the pain every day. And so choosing the things I can choose, the courage to choose the things I can do, is what I can do. Now, I am one of those people, as are so many. It's like we have excuses and justifications for not doing what we need to do, whether is around diet, whether it's around emotional situations, whether it's around relationships or work or money. We don't want to change. We don't want to change. And we can always come up with excuses and justifications. Always. And it's like, well, I'll just start tomorrow. I'm going to, today's the last day I'm going to have whatever, ice cream or whatever. And it's like, today's the last day I'm going to indulge myself in this. Just one more, I just justify not following through, or being in a relationship, as I mentioned in the previous podcast, being in a relationship where some of my needs weren't getting met. Some of them were, but some of them were not getting met. And I can excuse the situation, I can excuse the person, and justify for them, they have good excuses. But the point is I'm left with something less than great. And I'm diminishing my life energies. I'm, spend a lot of energy thinking about that situation, about that person, and how I'm upset. I'm using a lot of energy to not deal with that. And I make excuses. I make excuses a lot. But as I find myself and reveal to myself the degree to which I have been making excuses and stop doing that, my life gets better. So a long time ago, when I was in my 30s and I was acting in in our local theater production, and we got to go to Toronto for a theater festival, which was pretty cool. One of the judges, for some reason, decided to give us a lecture. And he lectured us on no excuse. Like, if you want to be good at this, there's no excuse to not be good. There's no excuse for not showing up on time. There's no excuse for missing rehearsals. I mean, he was talking relevant to theater, but what he was saying is, in your life, if you are making excuses, you're not being accountable for your life and what's showing up. And I did not like what this man was saying, because, I would always show up late for appointments. I would always have some excuse for not doing what I said I would do. And so I didn't like what he was saying, but at the same time, I realized that I'm not a person in integrity. I'm not showing up. If I make excuses, I don't have to show up in my life for people or myself. And so that has been a huge teacher to say, I'm about to make an excuse, and am I willing to do that? I don't know if I shared it in this series of podcasts or in the other one, which was called Aging Like a Guru. It's still available if you're interested, Aging Like a Guru. But I was this was, a year and a half ago, I guess, or so, about a year. And a year ago, I was a part of a group. It was a creative group. And the facilitator asked for a 4-month commitment. And I thought, well, that's easy. I'll do that. But 2 months in, I realized I didn't want to do it. And I felt like I just didn't want to do it. It wasn't fulfilling the way that I thought it would. And I had to pay money and those kinds of things, the investment of time and energy. It wasn't fulfilling. And it's like, I'll just call her and tell her I'm sick. Now that's making an excuse. Or I'll call her and tell her I have to go to my daughter's that weekend, so I won't be available. And I listened to myself, and here I am, sort of a teacher of spiritual principles, and here I am making excuses. And I go, no, I got to walk my talk here. So I called her, and I was hoping to get her answering machine, but I didn't. She picked up, and I said, I want to be really straight with you. This isn't fulfilling to me, and so I'm not going to return. And she said, but you made an agreement, you made a commitment. And I said, I did make a commitment. And if I fulfill that commitment, I believe it's at the detriment of the people who are there, because I don't want to be there. And my energy and all of that would be worse than if I don't just be honest with you and say I don't want to be there. So she didn't take it well. In fact, she kind of dissed me. She never talked to me again. But I felt like I was in integrity because I didn't make excuses. And I said that to her. I said, I could have told you I was sick. I could have told you I was going to my daughter's, but I didn't. I told you the truth. And it didn't make any difference to her. It was what it was. But for me, I was in integrity. I didn't make excuses. I didn't lie. I didn't justify. I just said, here's where I'm at. I'm sorry I'm not going to fulfill my commitment, but I feel like it's in my best interest, in the interest of everybody, for me to make this choice. So we never know the outcome of that situation, except what I know is I'm in integrity with myself. And the more I'm in integrity with myself, the better life is for me. If I'm lying and if I make excuses, now I feel bad about myself, or I feel guilty. That's another thing I have to, deal with. Why not just be straight? So the point of this particular podcast is to notice where you're making excuses for anything, and where you're justifying your actions one way or another. And the opposite of that would be to say, hey, here's what's true for me. Here's what is for me. I don't want to do that. I really don't want to do that. I said I would do it, but I don't want to do it. And that's so much healthier for you and the person that you're dealing with, or the situation you're dealing with, than to lie or make excuses or to justify. Because everybody does it, but everybody sees through it. And you can't trust yourself. They can't trust you. And there's no mutual respect. It kind of goes down the toilet. And that's not what I want to build, and that's not what I want you to build for you. I want you to build integrity and respect for yourself and for everyone. And that's part of not making excuses. All right, that's pretty much it for today. If you have any questions, or you'd consider wanting to work with me as a coach, feel free to email me at rosie@theparadigmshifts.com. All right, big hugs to you. Bye for now.